Does that mean that some Americans, especially a decent chunk of Americans, can't be convinced? No, of course they can be convinced to love communism. You like the weekend? Thank a union for that. Thank some communists for that, okay? Your Antifa edit went hard. Oh, yeah. This? Is that what you're talking about? This is the biggest attack on free speech since the McCarthy era, but it also has significantly less popular consensus behind it than the second Red Scare. It's being done on behalf of a minority faction led by the most unpopular president in modern history. Organizing against this can win. Yes, I do agree with that. That's why this is not a moment to feel discouraged or scared or fearful. The reason why they're doing this is because they're weak. If they weren't weak, they wouldn't be doing this. If they didn't recognize their powerlessness. This music is not the best music. I'm gonna be honest with you. What the hell? It makes it sound like I'm just so dead. They wouldn't be doing this. If they weren't fearful of mass discontent, they wouldn't be trying to make an example out of random fucking people. You can't cave. You can't be fearful. You can't let these guys. Yeah, it sounds like I got mesothelioma. Yeah. Fascist. Okay. Fuck this administration. This administration is a fascist one. I am an anti-fascist. What the fuck are we doing? What's next? Are they going to openly go, nope, we are a fascist government now? They're going to just say that? Is that what we're doing? Because anti-fascism is just fascism. Bro, don't say that right now. Oh, what the fuck? Get out of here, dude. Listen, you need to understand something, okay? These people are not strong. They're fucking weak. They fear you being united, okay? We have the numbers. There are Americans of good conscience everywhere, okay? And because they're so fearful that if the people stand united, that they'll never be defeated, that they try to pick apart. They try to divide the masses. They try to make an example out of people, okay? And when institutions don't actually respond in defense of the citizens, in a country like the United States of America especially, okay, if institutions don't respond, if people don't respond, if they actually obey in advance, then regardless of how weak they are, regardless of how fearful they are, they win. And it doesn't stop. When they get a victory, they do not stop. That just emboldens them to dig deeper. This is how it fucking works. They do not have enough confidence. They do not have the numbers. There is a lot of discontent against this administration. They do not have the numbers. They can't even get the fucking National Guard to be deployed everywhere. They can't do that. And even if they were to do that, there is no guarantee of success because the National Guard is also comprised of your fucking neighbors, okay? There's no guarantee that those guys are going to be like, all right, well, we're loyal servants of fascism now. These are the actions of a weak administration. These are not the actions of a strong administration. If they were strong, they wouldn't feel the need to stamp out any sort of discontent. If they were strong, they wouldn't feel the need to try to put the fear of God in your hearts, in your minds, in your soul, to stop you, to make you think twice. I argue with a liberal who dislikes your Ukraine takes deeply, who despised you in August. He was praising you last night in a reply to Kyle Kulinski retweeting this. I mean, I'm glad that they're finally coming to the recognition that I'm not their enemy. But if I'm to make an assessment here, I would make an assessment off of the fact that people are recognizing that all of these silly, drama-focused opinions that they've developed over the years are completely and utterly irrelevant in the face of a much larger evil that is facing American society and American future. I'm glad that like fucking liberals are finally coming to that recognition. That means that hopefully if a guy like that is so primed, if a guy like that who is so primed to fucking hate me over like whatever they've seen, okay, so primed over like whatever they've read on Reddit, can recognize that there is a much larger problem here that must be solved, a much larger problem here that must be fought against, then the normie liberals probably are at a much higher level of anger and resentment towards this administration. So that's good. before you engage in any sort of anti-fascist action, before you engage in any sort of demonstration, because they are afraid. It is upon all of us to make sure that we don't stand down, okay? Today will be the easiest day for you to express your discontent. Tomorrow, it will get harder. And the day after, it will be even harder than that. And the less we express our discontent, the less we express our frustrations, the more this administration will feel emboldened to do more of the same. Yeah. We can't afford to stop, is my point. We can't afford to stop. What is this? They don't have the numbers? Oh, this? The Bugs
There
Life.
was that ant that stood up to me.
Yeah, but we can forget about him.
Yeah, it was just one ant. One ant.
Yeah, you're right. It's just one ant.
Yeah, boss, they're puny.
Puny? Say, let's pretend this grain is a puny little ant. Did that hurt?
Nope.
Well, how about this one?
Are you kidding?
How about this? You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay?
Damn, this movie hits different as an adult. I mean, listen, the point stands, right? Objectively Marxist work, by the way. We should watch it. How do you actually stand up against successfully against an administration that just doesn't seem to care legally and has no real opposition parties? We have to do it ourselves. There is nothing you can do. You can't rely on anybody else. You can't just like sit around and expect China to do something. You can't sit around and expect the Democrats to do something. You have to do it. We have to do it. Okay? You have to rely on your neighbors. You have to rely on your communities. This is how it's been. This is how it's been since the beginning of this administration. It's very clear that the Democrats left us behind. I've been saying this over and over again. I will go so far as to say that a lot of people who are fearful, who feel left alone, who feel left behind, are only feeling that way because they have not experienced solidarity. Okay? They have not organized. They have not been out in the streets. They have not protested. Okay? These guys are fucking such idiots. Brian Krassenstein just declared he's Antifa, which is classified as a terrorist organization. I'm Antifa, meaning I'm against fascism. All America should be. Antifa is not an organization. Domestic groups cannot be formally designated as terrorist organizations under U.S. law. Trump did not have the legal authority to unilaterally designate Antifa as a terrorist organization. No federal statute allows for a president to make such designation domestically. This has 44,000 fucking likes from libs of TikTok saying Brian Krassenstein just declared he's Antifa, which is classified as a terrorist organization. Same with this fucking dipshit. Excuse me, at FBI, I'd like to report an Antifa domestic terrorist who needs to be immediately arrested and deported. His name is Hasan. He's currently crying and pissing under his bed sheets right now. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I said fascist loser neo-Nazi was arrested during January 6th, begging the Trump administration to arrest me for being an anti-fascist. Good luck, man. Good luck. Yeah, dude. I am an anti-fascist. Okay? I am a motherfucking anti-fascist. What do you mean? All people of good conscience should be an anti-fascist. What the fuck are we talking about? Yeah, I'm proud about it too. So dumb. Yeah, I'm the CEO of Antifa, baby, the organization. What a radical proposition, man. This is how it started. We started with woke, right? Oh, that's woke. Woke just means you're a nice person, by the way. It's not even, they're not even hiding that, by the way. They just straight up are like, oh, you're woke. No, I just think like, you know, gay people and trans people should be left alone. Because I'm not some obsessed loser like you are. It's called having fucking empathy, man. It doesn't have to always be fake, okay? And it's so strange. Now they're like, oh, I can't believe someone said that they are an anti-fascist. It's like, everyone should be an anti-fascist. If you're an American, shut up, commie. Oh, shut the fuck up, bitch. If you're an American, your grandparents were anti-fascists. They fought fascists directly. What the fuck do you think World War II was about? There's a reason why, even to this day, active neo-Nazis refuse to call themselves as such. Now, that's changing, for sure. But up until this moment, very rarely would you have open neo-Nazis call themselves as such, because they understand that there's a bad association with this. Okay? Same with the Klan. Up until today, Klansmen used to wear masks. There's a reason for it. Okay? And we know what happened in the first Trump administration when Nazis from all around the country came down to Charlottesville to unite the right, to do a rally, to do a massive demonstration. They did not choose to wear masks. They wore that creed. They wore that badge proudly on their chests. They showed their faces. They thought they had the numbers. They didn't. The second Unite the Right rally was loosely put together and was met with overwhelming force. This is why I say there will always be people out there who think that they are a lot more popular than they actually are. But you have to assume that your neighbors can be convinced. You have to assume that your neighbors still have some semblance of decency. Your communities are still comprised of individuals who are just maybe not paying close attention to everything that's going on. But if they did, they would realize, they would recognize right from wrong. You can't just give up on others, and you can't give up on trying to fight back. We don't even prosecute the Klan in this country. What are we talking about, dude? We don't even prosecute neo-Nazi groups. Like, think about that. Think about that. We don't prosecute the Klan. We don't prosecute Nazis. We don't investigate these groups, but we're going to investigate something that's not even a group at all. Antifa, anti-fascism, is not an organized body, okay? It is by design something that you do. Anti-fascism is an ideology. Anti-fascism is an action. Anti-fascism does not have a disciplined formation. Fascism requires constant discipline. Anti-fascism does not. Anti-fascism could be anti-racism. All this talk, especially coming from this show, by the way, as far as violent language goes, is really interesting because Brian Kilmeade last week straight up said we should euthanize the homeless. We should kill them all. And he didn't like that he accidentally agreed with that, as a matter of fact. It was on camera, caught in 4K. This is thought crime. What are they going to do? The point is, and the reason why I don't actually worry as much, or I'm not as scared, is because we still have some semblance of laws in this country. We have a constitution in this country. And more importantly, we have a bunch of people who I believe, regardless of their political deviations, regardless of their ideology, will respond negatively to this. I am not so certain that people from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life will be excited at this. I know you look at Twitter and I know you see those tweets go viral on the fucking fascist platform run by a white supremacist monster like Elon Musk, and you think, no, there's a lot of people who are excited at this. There's a lot of people who are salivating at the prospect of this. Make no mistake. I told you that people, once they realized Donald Trump was going to do mass deportations, once those mass deportation initiatives came knocking down their doors, would not like it. And that's precisely what happened. And I'm telling you once again, even those who currently celebrate these initiatives do not realize that they will hate it when it's implemented. Okay? It is up to us, if the Democratic Party is not going to do this job, it is up to us to educate people on what that looks like. It is up to us to convince our neighbors that this is completely unjustifiable. Stop saying most people are right-leaning. That is not true. The left-right dynamic does not exist in this situation. There are certain things that Americans believe and defend unconditionally. Okay? Does that mean that some Americans, especially a decent chunk of Americans, can't be convinced? No, of course they can be convinced to love this dictatorship, this fascist dictatorship. Absolutely. But if your assumption is that, like, even Republicans are going to be appreciative of this stamping out of the political opposition, that they're all going to get on board with this vengeance quest, if you think that they were primed into agreeing with this, then the Trump administration wouldn't be farming the Charlie Kirk assassination to develop this initiative. Do you understand? They would have just done it, and people would have been on board with it regardless. They are trying. They are trying desperately to get as many people on board as possible. But what they fail to consider is that this kind of stuff annoys people, especially in the absence of any sort of material improvement to their immediate circumstances. They are frustrated, they're angry, and every single day a new person realizes maybe all of this, like hunting down trans people, hunting down undocumented Guatemalans, is not actually improving my life in the way that I thought it was going to. Every day it's happening. And I told you it was going to happen inevitably, and it's already here. So look to that change in attitude overall. Look to the fact that Donald Trump is less popular now than he was at this point in 2017, to recognize that even though our liberal institutions are completely capitulating to the administration, there is mass discontent. There is mass outrage. There's fear as well. But this can be productive. But it can only be productive if you actually explain to people who the real villains are. It hasn't even been an entire year since Trump came to power, and there is already mass discontent. Okay? You say, dog, the majority of people are sleepwalking through this shit. I agree. I recognize that. I understand that. It is up to us to explain to them what's going on and to shake them out of the stupor that they found themselves in. Okay? We have to wake them up. That's it. And obviously, if this wasn't something that the administration feared, they wouldn't be going after people. They wouldn't be going after people like myself, for example. If I was just an irrelevant personality in the same vein that I've billed myself as for my entire fucking career, and I still do think that, by the way, make no mistake, but I don't think the administration sees it as such, they wouldn't be actively stamping out this any sort of political dissent. Do you understand? Only a weak administration engages in these kinds of punitive measures. A strong administration that has the popular mandate doesn't care. They don't care. I mean, you did call the violence. Man, shut the fuck up, dude. Jesus Christ. No, I did not. Okay? I did not. If that gets you more excited at the prospect of stamping out political dissent, good luck to you. But it will fuck you one day as well. This same administration will eventually fuck you as well, because your life is not improving. And eventually, there will be a moment where you wake up to the reality that your life is not improving. And there will be a moment where you say, hey, can we fucking make housing more affordable for people like me, the average Joe? And when you actually ask that question, you'll also get fucking prosecuted. Ignoring this kind of stuff does not go away. Okay? Ignoring this kind of stuff does not make it go away. It's not going to go away. You have to address it head on.
I would like to see you sit these kids down. A lot of them are overprivileged, and you sit there and go, who funded you? How much you getting paid? Who did it? And just build it like that. Who's the one who called you? How did you guys form? Why do you all wear black? And then you find out what's behind it. And I think it's going to go to a certain funding. These guys aren't rioting for free. They're all getting paid. That's why it's important.
Well, real quickly before we move on, to your point, you're right, Brian, that we don't have the domestic terrorism in that sense. But the past administration, they were looking at mom groups.
I know.
They were talking about, by the way, we got new revelations about them targeting Turning Point, FBI, going after them. Pro-life groups, they were labeling them as domestic terror. By the way, there was no evidence of this happening. White supremacist groups that they were claiming in the military and all that as domestic terror.
He's talking about Atomwaffen. And the only reason why Atomwaffen was ever targeted was because it was a neo-Nazi group that actually did instances of domestic terror. They recruit from within the military, okay? And the only time when the government actually takes action against groups like Atomwaffen is when they steal explosive ordnance from a fucking base that they used to actually work at and then try to blow up train tracks or some shit. What do you mean? That is insane. There is a reason why people like the Proud Boys, like the Three Percenters, the Oath Keepers, and numerous other neo-Nazi formations, all the way from Patriot Front to a million different groups, can openly exist on U.S. soil. The Klan, for example, in spite of the reality that they are responsible for a shit ton of domestic terror incidents and violence, hate crimes, and the like. Because as long as they are demonstrating peacefully, even though we can have a conversation about what their peaceful demonstrations are actually trying to invoke, but as long as they are demonstrating peacefully, it's still legal under the First Amendment. Donald Trump turning around and designating Antifa, which is not even an organization like the ones that I am mentioning, okay, as a terror cell is not only ridiculous because there is no organized unit that you can point to. You can just like invent one potentially and make it seem as though they are, right? But it's also ridiculous because it goes against the First Amendment. It leads to what Republicans used to say is thought crime. I think conservatives love having paid protester fantasies because they're so obsessed with money they can't fathom standing behind their own principles for free when the rubber hits the road. No, it's not that. It's actually sadder than that. It's a grifter party. The left does direct action and mass mobilization because it's comprised of people who actually give a shit. It's sadder than that. It's because they know deep down inside that their ideas are not popular. That's the same exact reason why everyone is losing their minds over people accurately reflecting on Charlie Kirk quotes in the aftermath of his death. Republicans are hyper obsessed with dominating culture. They already dominate the country. They already own the government. But the thing that they can't own is popular support for their ideas. They can sell it, especially when the opposing party in our duopoly is dog shit like the Democrats were, right? And still are, mind you. They can at least like present themselves as marginally better. But on its face, their legislative agenda is cruel. And at best, a simple distraction. And this is precisely the reason why they constantly try to create hug boxes, echo chambers, where they are like, no, we are more popular than you actually think. Like Twitter is a great example of this. They try to make it seem, they try to delude themselves into thinking that their ideas are more popular than they actually are. But once implemented, those ideas are not popular. You know what kind of ideas are popular, however? Ones that are seemingly impossible to take out, regardless of how much Democrats and certainly Republicans have tried to take them away. Social Security. Is that a right-wing proposition? No. Welfare. Is that a right-wing proposition? No. SNAP benefits. Medicaid. Medicare. You can only tackle social safety nets by shrouding it in secrecy, by initiating scalebacks and drawbacks in the dead of the night without people paying attention to it. That's the only way that you can do it. Through cloak and daggers. If Republicans were honestly running around and being like, we want to make sure that the working poor suffer, people would say, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. To step out of the hug box, to have enough humility to say they were wrong while still having enough backbone to stand up for others who need to wake up. And it seems very few people are capable of these two features. No, because the average person is like quiet in their support for the most part. Not everyone is as loud and proud, even though MAGA supporters usually are very loud. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that people can quietly change their positions and become loyal friends that recognize right from wrong. Yeah, this is intentionally vague, by the way. They're saying they know that anti-fascism is an ideology, okay? It's a good ideology, as a matter of fact. It's good. It's great. We should all be anti-fascist. We were all taught to be anti-fascist. Our grandparents were anti-fascist when they fought the Nazis, okay? But the reason why Ben Domenech, who is completely aware that this is not like a real organized unit, is because that allows the administration, if implemented, to target whatever group they see fit as organizing protests. And they're doing that already. They're going after PSL, for example, Party of Socialism and Liberation. If you've attended any of the ICE protests all around the country, you most likely attended a Party of Socialism and Liberation organized protest. If you attended any of the Palestine protests, Palestinian Youth Movement is another organization that they're going after. These are all anti-fascist organizations. It's true. But they're not Antifa in the way that these guys design it. Answer Coalition is another one as well. They're going after these organizations that are real organizations that do more than just, anti-fascist action. But they're doing so because they oppose the administration. It's that simple. The Department of Justice's very own analysis showed that the overwhelming majority of political violence and acts of domestic terror came from, and this might come as a surprise to people if you only watch mainstream news, you hear the exact opposite of this. It came from far-right anti-government extremist groups, many of them white supremacists, white nationalists, and the like. Shocker, I know. And of course, for good governance purposes, the law enforcement authorities for a brief moment actually decided, while they were still doing the black identitarian extremism shit too on the side with black Israelite groups that they were targeting, okay? Or people that they thought were affiliated with like black Israelite groups or Nation of Islam and the like. For every like 2 or 3 people that they nabbed from those groups, there were hundreds that they were investigating on the far right that were directly responsible for acts of domestic terror. It's so ridiculous.
I think in many instances abusing their power and framing them falsely as white supremacist groups and the like. And I think that this administration is basically saying, look, you took your eye off the ball. Those groups were never a threat to the American people. They never represented an actual violent threat. And instead you persecuted them. We're now going to use the full force of the law to go after the people who really do represent violent threats across the country. And I think this is part of a stepped up attitude. And frankly, if Democrats want to defend Antifa and go down that
Is joining the PSL or Answer Coalition a bad idea? No, fuck no. No, of course it's not. I think not being a part of any sort of like organized movement at this point is a bad idea rather than a good one.
That road, as I saw David Axelrod and others suggesting this was going to, be some kind of political witch hunt.
Incredible.
I think that, more power to them. I think it's absolutely detestable.
The moment that you think, oh, joining any organization that resists the Trump administration is bad, the moment that you let that fear set in is the moment where they've won. Okay? You're obeying in advance. It's ridiculous. Do you want these pedophilic, drunk, perverted assholes to win? What are we doing? They already won? No, they didn't. Americans are spineless. Fascism has already won. Stop coping. All right, dude. Let's just fucking sit around and wait for the admin to come in and put us in concentration camps. Like, this kind of attitude is so stupid, dude. Do you think you're fucking edgy when you say this kind of nihilistic bullshit? Is that what you think? Do you think this is a productive attitude to have right now? In this very moment, when there are a lot of people who are angry but don't know exactly how to channel that frustration. When you come in here and say dumb fuck bullshit like this, oh, Americans are already fascists. Americans are spineless. Fascism has already won. Stop coping. All right, we should just give up. You can say the same about Gaza. Just give up. Whatever. The genocide is happening, right? Don't you think it's fucking unimaginably disrespectful to those who have been martyred by the state of Israel already and those you could prevent the martyring of to do whatever you can? How many times do I have to fucking say this? Why not leave the country? Because I'm stubborn. I don't know how many times I have to explain this, dude. Just give up. Just give up, dude. Fuck it. Just give up. No reason to fight back as this government takes away everything that you hold near and dear. I think a lot of people just assume that if they close their eyes, plug their ears, that this problem will eventually magically evaporate, that they'll go away. Okay? It's not going away.
What's happening with...
It's not going away, man.